Here's a BNP party member, Terry, in Sittingbourne. Terry, go ahead.
Yeah, hello, George.
Hi.
Yeah, the reason why people voted for the BNP is because of their immigration policy. They want to close the door. And
How
they're
could
not
they
against...
do that, though,
wait a
Terry?
minute, they're not all
Terry,
against...
Terry,
yeah.
we'll have a proper conversation.
Yeah, okay.
How could the BNP do that?
Oh, they make their policies, won't they? They'll close the door on immigration,
But you
stop
can't.
immigration.
But you can't
Yes,
close
they
it.
can. If they're the government, they can.
Well, no, unless they're going to leave the European Union.
Yes, that's right. That's
Okay.
what they're going to do, is leave the European Union.
Okay, and
Right.
then what, Terry? Where are we going to go then?
Right. What they do then is they still trade with Europe. They can still trade. You don't have to give up your trade. But they're not against all black people or foreigners, because those that are working in this country now will, and they got jobs, they will be allowed to stay in the country. The people that they're going to put out, and this is where the myth is you put about, they're going to let the people stay in the country who are working. Those who are illegal immigrants and bogus asylum seekers, they're the ones they're going to send back home.
You're going to put them in trucks, cattle trucks?
Well, no, you just put them out of the country, like they would do now, but only at a quicker rate.
Are we going to round?
And that's why. And that's why. No, listen.
Going to round them up, Terry?
Well, the police will, won't they?
The police will round
Police or the army.
We're beginning to get you.
But the thing is, can I just ask you a question?
The police or the army will be rounding up people of colour. We've got that.
No, they won't be rounded. They won't be rounding them up in the way you're saying.
You just said it.
No,
the police
they
or
won't
the
be
army.
rounding them up. But
You just said, and you're a BNP party member, that the police or the army will round them up. You just said it. I could play it back to you if you like.
Seekers are. The bogus asylum seekers will be. And they'll be put out.
How are you going to tell? Will it be, as Nick Griffin said, because of how they look?
They know who the bogus...
Terry, if they knew who the bogus asylum seekers were, they'd already be out, my dear. Now, Nick Griffin says that you can tell by looking at them. That's right, isn't it?
No.
That's your view, isn't it?
No, the Labour Party don't seem to have no control on immigration.
Well,
neither do the Tories. But another question I wanted to ask.
No, but before we leave that one, it's illegal to stop people from the European Union entering this country, just as it's illegal to stop the more than 1 million British workers who are working in other people's European Union countries. The only way that you could stop that is by leaving the European Union under a BNP government. You think that the European Union will continue to do business as usual with a BNP British government that has just withdrawn from Europe? I put it to you that that's cloud cuckoo land, Terry.
Well, we will go back to trade with New Zealand.
That's the future then. We're going to trade with the tiny market of New Zealand.
Serious point.
Terry, we've got it now. The police or the army are going to round up the people of colour. We're going to leave the European Union, and we're going to deal with the inevitable retaliation from the European Union by trading with New Zealand. Don't you understand that your level of economic and political illiteracy is matched only by your venality? Here's Pete in Chelmsford, who wants to defend Nick Griffin. Go ahead, Mr. Pete in Chelmsford, yes.
Yeah, good evening to you, George.
Good evening, sir.
George, I do love your programme, and that's not a sweet meat. I do love your programme. But I think for a guy who's supposed, a guy in your position, who's supposed to have something of a handle on public opinion, I think you're being extraordinarily naive.
Tell me why.
Well, I mean, you're coming out with the predictable sort of insults about people who are voting for the British National Party, having their knuckles dragging on the ground and all this sort of nonsense. But, as far as I can make out, and I talk to people, I listen to people, just generally being around, you get to learn that there are a great many perfectly decent, honourable, tax-paying citizens without a stain on their character who have decided, and they've looked at the policies, the manifestos, they've listened, they're not stupid, they're intelligent people, and they've decided, especially in the light of what's been going on recently, that perhaps there is an alternative, and they actually agree with their policies.
Not in Chelmsford, they didn't.
Well, I'm not sure exactly what happened in Chelmsford.
Well, I'm pretty sure. And not in London, they didn't. Why do you think that is?
The point is, I think...
The BNP vote was absolutely miserable in Chelmsford and in London.
Well, just up the road in Rochford, they were beating the Labour Party and they got a very high vote. But the point is, I think a lot of people, a hell of a lot more people than actually voted for the British National Party, and this is borne out by polls as well, apparently, because I have to believe what I'm told at some stage. Most people do actually agree with most of their policies. The only reason they don't do something more concrete about it by voting more often or joining the party or whatever or supporting them financially is because of the demonisation that they stand to suffer if they were to make their feelings known.
Well, let's deal with some of the reasons, Pete, for that demonisation. The BNP is led by people who include those convicted of incitement to racial hatred, assault against members of the ethnic minority communities, people who deny that the Holocaust ever existed, people who used to actually be photographed in Nazi uniforms. That's fairly serious stuff, isn't it?
Well, that last point I would say is pretty serious stuff, yeah. But I think it needs to be recognised that, I mean, once again, you've sort of come out with that old chestnut.
Well,
I don't say this,
it's true, Pete.
No, but you're coming out with this old chestnut about, the convictions, but if you look at the convictions for people in the Liberal Party, the Labour Party and the Conservative Party, you've got a whole big rag bag of people there who have done awful, awful crimes, just as bad as anybody in the British National Party.
Let's deal... No, I don't think so. Let's deal with one of the two BNP MEPs, Mr. Andrew Bronze. He was a member of the National Socialist Movement, which was founded on Adolf Hitler's birthday, and there are extant photographs of him wearing Nazi uniforms, and he's now in the European Parliament for the BNP. And you think that's not cause for demonising somebody?
Well, it doesn't sound too good to me, but...
No, but it happens to be the truth.
But then again, people can change. Dennis Seeley was a communist. Lots of Labour Party members used to be communists.
A communist...
People can mature and change.
A communist is not the same thing as a man in a Nazi uniform saluting Adolf Hitler on his birthday as a member of the National Socialist Movement.
I would agree with you, George, but how, in this atmosphere of demonisation and this concerted effort to undemocratically do down a legally constituted political party, how are people to believe what you are saying now? Because there have been so many other downright lies. So why should we believe you when you say that there are photographs of him strutting around in a Nazi uniform?
You don't have to believe me, you can believe him. He made exactly the defence that you just made on his behalf, which may or may not be a coincidence. That he was a member of the National Socialist Movement. It was founded on Hitler's birthday. They did have a birthday celebration every year for Adolf Hitler. He did wear the uniform, but he's changed.
Well, I mean, I don't like the sound of that description either, but I do believe that people can change. Perhaps he's grown up, perhaps he's matured, perhaps he's seen the light, and he understands, that such a thing as a Holocaust did exist, and that Hitler was a complete bastard.
Or perhaps he's just put a suit on top of the uniform, Pete.
I don't know. I don't know. But I think this habitual sort of demonisation, I mean, we hear this thing about them being the fascist party, but I must remind you, George, I mean, society today, we attract everywhere we go in town, on the roads. We can be traced from Lansing to John O'Groats. The government wants access to all emails and texts. They want an ID card system. They want a national DNA database. We're prevented from speaking normally and intuitively through political correctness. We're afraid to say what we want or we could lose our job. We send troops in where we've no business to be. And yet people say that the BNP is fascist. I mean, that's a pretty good description of a fascist party I've just given out.
Okay, Pete, thanks for calling. Here's Bill.